facts will come out over time. Let's wrap up on Google. Google dropped 7% after reporting earnings on Tuesday, Chamath. Revenue up 12% year over year to $96.5 billion. Wow. Cloud revenue was up 30% year over year, $12 billion. YouTube ads surging 14% to $10.5 billion. Net profit was around $26.5 billion, up 28% year over year. So they are really focusing on profitability, obviously. Full year numbers, this is just extraordinary. Total revenue, $350 billion with $100 billion in net profit. Cloud and YouTube finished 2024 with a combined run rate of $110 billion. YouTube is basically Netflix inside of Google, and their Google Cloud is essentially AWS inside of Google. The thing that made investors get concerned, Chamath, is that Google said it would invest $75 billion in CapEx in 2025, 42% jump over 2024, 29% more than analysts expect. Obviously, this has to do with data center servers and the AI build out. What do you think about that number, $75 billion, obviously in relation to what we saw with DeepSeek doing it with maybe a little bit less, maybe they're lying? Is this just an absolute waste of money or gargantuan number, or is it something they can easily, with that amount of profitability and cash they have, absorb and use in the future?
I think I should stipulate that Google's models are probably the best of all the models across a broad base of capabilities if you test for them. And so let's start there, which is whatever they're doing is working. The thing that they need to do is be able to translate those models now into better products. And I think that will happen slowly. Like, for example, if you look at deep research, most of the people online that are evaluating deep research would now say that OpenAI is both faster and just better on the margins. All of these things can be improved. I don't think that's a comment on the base model. I think it's a comment on post-training and how they're attempting to productize these things. So the other thing that Google has is a money machine that directly benefits from these AI-driven optimizations on ad targeting. The only other company that has anywhere close to the same credibility is Meta. So I think what both of these two companies need to do is do a better job of explaining how that $75 billion gets segregated. How much of that goes to these AI-enabled models that actually do better ads optimization? There's a really interesting discussion by a former Meta machine learning engineer on X about how they did it. It's pretty amazing. It's staggering. But if they could say half the money goes to that and the other half goes to more speculative, pre-training and post-training, I think the market would have eaten it up. So it's probably more of a disclosure issue for Google, because I would say right now their model quality is the best.
You have thoughts on this build out, Antonio? Obviously, I think you've been involved with XAI and obviously involved with Twitter and X previously, and Colossus's colossal build out. That was extraordinary to watch in such a short period of time. Do you have concerns that, like some people do, that this build out is too expensive and it would be too hard to monetize all that expense? Or is it maybe a little bit of hand wringing and the opportunity in AI is so obviously huge that you just got to take the leap of faith and if you build it, the revenue will come?
Yeah, I think Chamath has the right framework here, which is return on invested capital. And what he's saying by, if Google had said, hey, half the money is for ads and half the money is for speculative post-training, the market would have seen that half the money has a higher return on capital. And Google's return on capital is actually going up after the implementation of AI models into their company. And I think that sort of abstracts the entire market, which is people are waking up that return on invested capital in data centers will matter, that the models are basic commodities and super competitive. In a best case, it's kind of a land war in Asia. It's a melee. In a worst case, it's just total commodities. What does matter is the return on capital data center, which is influenced by how good the data centers are. So you mentioned the XAI data center. It's a 100,000 GPU cluster. It's the most dense, coherent cluster in the world, and it will just train faster and better than other clusters. And it's also built for the most cheaply and the fastest. So XAI will have the highest return on capital, and I also think the best train data, and therefore will win. I think Google will also win because they have their TensorFlow chips. They make some of their own chips. They do focus on ROIC, and they have a great monopoly to kind of fund it all. So I don't think it's overblown. I think this is going to be, as you guys have said before in the podcast, bigger than the Industrial Revolution. But It's also true that you need to have a good ROIC. And if you don't, and you're not transparent about it, you can see what happens.
Chamath Palihapitiya recently came out to rant about people losing hope in Nvidia and making the DeepSeek debacle a bigger issue than it actually was. While the market is scrambling and the bears are out of the woodwork, Chamath is detailing all the reasons that make him believe Nvidia will surge back to glory and beyond after their February 26th earnings report. And it is not all just about the mere excitement that comes after a huge event. Let's delve deeper into his reasoning and find out why Nvidia is still the #1 choice. Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy.
I mean, that's the game we're seeing on the field. How many companies are we seeing hit $1 million in revenue with 5 employees, where that used to take 25? So the efficiency's there. Chamath, your outlook on this issue, since it seems to be coming up again, specifically with truck drivers and Uber drivers and all kinds of other research jobs that seem to be doing pretty well, or can be done pretty well by AI. Where do you stand on this issue today?
I think it's a process. Buffett wrote about this in an annual letter, and what he described was the changing nature of jobs during the agrarian revolution. And what you saw was a large cohort of people who supported themselves through farming. And then the total quantum of those jobs shrank by 90% when you had industrialized farming and tractors and whatnot. But the economy, to Antonio's point, grew around that business and added other kinds of businesses that didn't make sense in that moment. And I think what you see is that when economies get more and more evolved, you see the growth of services, businesses that sort of are these things that can only happen when you have excess, right? The person that you pay for closet organizing would not have had a job in the turn of the agrarian revolution or the industrial revolution. Yeah. But they can exist in 2020 something, and frankly, they can make a good job. The life coach. There are all these jobs that just kind of come out of nowhere.
Podcaster, influencer,
all of that.
Yeah. Venture capitalist,
venture capital allocator, absolutely. Mutant strawberry creator.
Yeah. So I think that you're
cut that
waiting for this next turn of creativity. Like the big problem that we all have, maybe I'll take the more glass half empty version of what Antonio said, is we really haven't been unlocking people's creativity over the last 15 years. We've been trundling around, except save of a few companies, which we all know, and we can just repeat them endlessly, but we know which ones they are, that are truly innovating and at the edge. Everybody else is kind of diddling around navel gazing. So the real problem is that we have not had a lot of reps in being creative. I'll give you just a very simple example. Nick, can you find this? Even extremely staid industries. Did you see the BYD clip of the car?
Yes.
And I thought
Parallel
to myself,
park, yes, with a little swipe. It's incredible.
How tragic is it that you look at this and you're blown away?
Yeah.
And you're blown away for 2 reasons. One is, A, I didn't think that was possible. And B, why doesn't it exist in America? But the reality underneath the hood is extremely benign how this is implemented. And so I think that the problem is we spent so much time losing the script. I think Antonio's right. When you unshackle people to not focus on the mental load of getting the pronouns right or the this or the that, you won't be so overwhelmed by things like this because you will have already been pushing the boundaries of human creativity. We need to get back to that. We need to let these creative people cook. And I hope that happens. And I think that will happen.
Nvidia's stock has taken quite a hit, primarily due to the recent unveiling of DeepSeek's highly efficient AI model. But let's not jump to conclusions faster than a day trader on caffeine. Nvidia's future rests not just on existing ventures. Their new Blackwell architecture, proclaimed to train AI models 4 times faster than its predecessor Hopper, is creating quite a buzz. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
I don't have much of an opinion on that, to be honest. I think that sort of along the lines of what I said on the prediction show, I think
Sure.
that Waymo and Tesla are going to run away with this market, and I think it's going to force a bunch of consolidation in the traditional auto
Okay.
OEMs. I think the interesting thing is that they really doubled down and created a pretty decent test bench for robotics. I thought that was pretty interesting. So I think that reinforces what a lot of smart people, including, what Freeberg and Gavin also spoke about, just in terms of the long-term future for robots. I think that was cool. I was a little confused by the low-end PC. I don't understand what the point of that is. Maybe it creates some crazy deep-in market where you can buy GPU and then contribute it to some distributed network and allow some distributed workload to run on that, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's a toy, a hobbyist kind of device that becomes like a bridge. And we see this often in technology where somebody creates, like even the original PCs, let's face it, they were kind of like toys and hobbyist devices, Arduinos, and the original drones were kind of hobbyist.
I guess the point is a toy to do what? Because if you're trying to do inference, everything is telling us that we are reaching the limits of training. And
that's an LLM, though.
Right.
But the point is, it's not. Yeah.
Let me get to it.
Yeah.
So in this world of AI that we know it today, there's training and there's inference. And right now we think that there's training that's at a limit. And so now the market shifts to inference. So if you're going to buy this jacked up personal computer, what are you going to use it for? My suspicion is some sort of test time compute use case, which is an inference use case. But it's not clear to me why that's a better solution than all of the AI accelerators plus tensors that are now just prolifically being exposed to the market, whether it's Amazon exposing what they've done, whether it's Google exposing what they've done, a whole litany of startups exposing what they've done. So I was just confused. I don't really know what the whole point is.
On another note, Nvidia's stock could almost be called a bargain right now. While typically not one to be bundled in with the word cheap, Nvidia's recent trajectory lends itself to a forward price-to-earnings ratio of just 26 times forward earnings, a detail that, like an overlooked appendix in a dense financial report, warrants attention. Compared to the S&P 500's average of 22.3 times forward earnings, Nvidia offers a premium that's not astronomical. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
You reconciling this DeepSeek news in your own mind as it relates to the stock, what you think it's worth? Are you as resolute in that belief as you were pre-DeepSeek news?
Well, DeepSeek, definitely was a shot across the bow for, American tech. And I would say most of all to a name like OpenAI, because it really sort of put it under scrutiny. It's not enough just to raise billions of dollars from venture capitalists who have an endless checkbook and just think that you can spend, and you're going to have the best models. I think what DeepSeek showed is that ingenuity and kind of necessity being the mother of invention, and how you optimize your different algorithms to get the most out of your software can mean just as much as the Nvidia chips themselves. So I think I saw more of a threat to the big LLMs, Anthropic and such. But for Nvidia is such a poster child for AI in general, and so we have the double ETFs, the triple ETFs. So it just was such a shocker that it really took it down. I stuck with it because I believed it was overdone, and despite the fact that we have to work smarter at how we build these models, I don't think there's anybody who's going to pass on the opportunity to get their hands on some Blackwell chips or Rubin chips next year if they have the opportunity. So I think the order book for NVIDIA is going to show to be really strong. We've seen that with the Google CapEx guide and the Microsoft CapEx guide. So I expect NVIDIA to be just fine.
With major clients continuing to pour capital into AI development and burgeoning technological advances like the Blackwell hardware on the horizon, NVIDIA shows no signs of slowing down. As investors debate whether to capitalize on this dip, the key question remains: What are your thoughts on Nvidia's position in the market amid these developments? Share your thoughts. Finally, if you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.